When it comes to YouTube, I am fucking creator. I am no viewer of YouTube, man. I'm an attention whore, but when I see these other attention whores, I see a reflection of myself and I want to vomit. And not only do I want to vomit, but I am filled with jealousy, you know, when I see their view counts. Motherfucker, you can take all of my fucking views on this fucking channel since its inception and fucking fit it into like 1 hour of what fucking that fat fucking nerd Sargon gets. And it, you know, I'm not happy about it because I feel I'm superior to everybody. Well, naturally, it's just, and especially like politics, makes me want to vomit. All the political YouTube, even those from the left, man. Even those from the left, I fucking loathe all of it. It's just a regurgitation of cliches. It's just like shitty processed food that you eat again and again and again, motherfucker. It's just the old, like a fucking stale fucking pizza at a fucking school cafeteria, man. And you just munch on that shit and remember that you're a fucking 17-year-old virgin. This is what it makes me feel like, and I don't fucking watch it, all right? But there's an exception, and that's ContraPoints. This is where I was going. ContraPoints, and it's different, man. She really puts a lot of effort. Like a lot of motherfuckers, they just turn off the camera, fucking get a fucking piece of shit background for $10 on fucking Amazon, and it's just they start fucking yapping. And people don't even bother with that. You see their like shitty room behind them, no fucking production value, and people reward that shit with views. So anyway, but she really kind of takes the effort, and I like the whole style. I like the whole irreverent fucking nature. You know, like infotainment is not a insult to me. It's not a bad word. Like, why can't we talk about cunt and also remember that your mother is a fat, horrible cunt, all right? Like, why can't we do that? Why can't we drop fucking zingers like that? That's what I try to do on this show, on my channel. But she does it very well. You know, she's a master or mistress of that kind of shit. Like, it's entertaining, but there's food for thought, motherfucker. Oh my God, Jesus. Anyway, I like her, all right? I like her, but that doesn't mean that I cannot offer constructive criticism. And really, I've been watching her videos, and this one popped up in the algorithm, all right? It's not like I was trolling over there on her channel to find something to shit on. This didn't happen, man. I swear on non-existent God, on the archetypal fucking Jordan Peterson's baby Jesus, who might or might not exist, depending on your level of analysis. I swear on the archetype of baby Jesus that I was not out to troll this woman. I was just admiring her videos, and then this one popped up about fucking psychiatry, and I decided to watch it, man. And so now I'll try to snap out of this like persona that I use as a shield against the fucking tiny view count on my videos, and try to be a little bit serious. 1, 2, 3. I really do think that her infotainment, fucking wisdom-tainment approach has failed her with this video, because there is a kind of a flippant approach to the serious subject of psychiatry, and that's basically what I'm going to critique. And as I critique this, I'm going to critique it in the same way that I've critiqued Jordan Peterson and Stefan Molyneux. But nevertheless, man, if you look behind the obnoxious facade, these are valid criticism, and beyond that, I don't think that she would want me to spare the rod. She wouldn't want me to spare the rod, man, and I'm not gonna spare it. But behind this is just this one issue, right, man? Fucking, I like that channel. You have my blessing to subscribe to it. This is not fucking lazy-eyed cunt, fucking rationality rules. This is a much different level of a YouTube channel, high-grade channel, man. And that's just the fucking one thing about psychiatry. But that being said, what she says about psychiatry, a lot of it is, it's just wrong and stupid, frankly. It's very flippant and ditzy, what she says about psychiatry. It's a fucking serious topic, fucking psychiatry. It's a complicated, multi-dimensional topic. There are reasons to shit on psychiatry, and I will shit on it in this video as well. But there are other reasons when shitting on psychiatry from a wrong angle and in a wrong way is actually profoundly dangerous. So yes, this is the video, man. This is the fucking video. Now, as you watch the video, you might ask yourself, Ivan, How come you know so much about psychiatry? Or maybe even if you don't know that much, why do you give it so much thought? Why is like psychiatry is on your mind, dude? Well, why don't you just fucking don't worry about that question, all right? Now, the one thing is, my middle name is fucking mental stability, right? Well, why don't you just fucking let it go, man? I'm a man of letters. You know, when you're like slow stroking it to some ASMR girl, I'm studying things, studying the world, and studying psychiatry. In no way disproportionate, and in no way connected with everything, with anything in my life, man. Don't fucking worry about it, man. Just let it go. Just intake the wisdom, dude. Enjoy the show, fucking. Open your fucking mouth up for the red pill, dude. And the other thing, maybe I have a schizophrenic brother, Boris, okay? He fucking edits the videos. Don't you admire the quality? I fucking dress up like Leon Trotsky and pretend to be a voice in his head, ordering him to edit my videos. And that's how things get done. That's how I can fucking drive a cargo van and make these videos. All right, dude. And the last thing I want to get, I know what you're thinking, Ivan. Ivan, you're transphobic. You have a stereotypical Russian name. You fucker, you Russian transphobic fucker. My dude, no. I fucking recognize everything and anything. And my fucking mind is open, dude. In fact, when I was in college, I was actually a male escort, open to both sexes, my dude. I really you might not suspect that I would be involved in that profession. But here I am, or here I was at one point. I can't no longer, it's done, that career path is close to me at this point. Now what happened, my man, is that I have acquired some fucking fat on my face, but on top of that cake there is also a glaze of a lack of a desire to live. And this is how we change with time, dude. Let's begin, my man.
Pretty soon I started dating, and dating led to love, and love led to heartbreak, or at least the teenage version of it. And this called for new diagnoses. So I was diagnosed with first depression and then bipolar disorder. And I'm not making this up. I've been diagnosed and treated for all these things by actual psychiatrists. It was the most intense when I was a teenager. I was seeing a psychiatrist and a psychologist every week, so often that insanity became part of my identity. Because when you're 15, there's something kind of romantic about madness, especially when it's 2005. Wake me up inside. Wake me up inside. When I went off to college, I discovered this, and this helped me kick the psychiatry habit, at least for a while. But it was only a matter of time before I was seeing another shrink, this time with some kind of vague anxiety diagnosis, for which I was prescribed Seroquel and Lamictal. Later on, I ended up going to yet another psychiatrist to help me get off of those, which led to a Klonopin habit that I kicked on my own a couple years ago. So after nearly 2 decades of prescription pills, I'm happy to say that I've been off all psychiatric drugs for a year and a half now, and I have to say, I feel just fine. I feel just fucking fine. I feel fine. I feel just fine. I feel just fucking fine. I feel fine. I feel just fucking fine. I feel fine, Wendy. I'm fine. I'm just fine. I feel completely fine. I'm fine. So when I look back at the majority of my life that I was seeing psychiatrists, what I see are 5 different diagnoses, at least 8 different drugs, many hours spent in therapy, and thousands of dollars spent by my parents and by insurance companies, and I have to ask myself, was this really necessary? And I suppose I don't have the medical qualification to answer that question, but as someone who spends a lot of time around me, I have to say that there's at least a chance that in my case, all of this is just nonsense. And I'm not saying that psychiatry is bullshit or that it doesn't help people. I know people who will tell you that psychiatry has saved their lives, and for all I know, it may have saved my life. I just don't know.
I have 0 issues with this part of the video. She had horrible experiences with psychiatry. A bunch of diagnoses and pills were slapped on her, and it was experiencing going from horrible to bad to mediocre. And she's completely entitled to point out this failure of psychiatry in her case. Now, the bigger issue is what was the larger context behind this treatment? A lot of people in the LGBTQ community experience higher levels of depression and suicide. Now, this in no way suggests that those, being a homosexual or whatever is a mental illness. It just shows that, prejudice affects people when there are no when your family could reject you, when your close ones could reject you, when there is no clear and path for you into adulthood, because your path is not recognized as normal. It's subversive or perverted or whatever, or weird or fucked up. Well, in that case, psychological issues arise, serious psychological issues. So was she experiencing that, and then psychiatry just medicalized every aspect of this? Or were there other issues going on? Or was there nothing else going on? Maybe there was nothing else going on. What the fuck do I know? So that's the issue with psychiatry. Psychiatry, to give you a very brief kind of history, psychiatry in America used to be ruled by Freudians, by psychoanalysts. And they would fucking, sit you down and try to get deep into your mind, into your unconsciousness. And basically, psychoactive medication didn't exist. It didn't exist. And all they tried to do was to get into the level of your unconsciousness and try to solve that shit. And when they would untie the snot of the unconscious, you would then, spring to a mental health, or at least surface above water. That's what they would do. However, then with the advent of these medications, everything has shifted toward basically pill pushing. Now, I don't have anything against these pills. In fact, they do help people, but they should help people in the context of their lives. And here, like if a person comes in and they're distressed, maybe they have mood swings as a result of the stress of dealing with their parents or just dysfunctional life situation. A psychiatrist might not get into that shit, might just look at the symptoms, be incompetent, and give you medications. So that's what could have happened with her. So my dude, allow me a few words about psychiatry, right? Point it out on your fucking body. Which part of the body does psychiatry treat? That's right, it's the fucking brain, dude. The brain, it defines your reality, man. It's the central fucking matrix. It's the core of your matrix. The brain is your existence. It is when you are brain dead, is when you officially die. It's the crown fucking chakra. It's the fucking brain. Much of the rest of our body is kind of mechanical in nature. Like you can, a fucking heart is a fancy organic kind of water pump. I mean, maybe it's not even that fucking fancy, You can have a mechanical heart. You can transplant the heart from another person. None of that shit is seamless, but none of this can be replicated in the brain. Like transplanting a part of one brain into another, it's almost like a fucking joke. It sounds insane because the mechanism is so much more complicated. It's not fucking understood well. So it's basically like psychiatrists are dealing with the black hole. I mean, people are scanning the brain and doing more, and we, of course, understand now more than we ever did before. But there's a shit ton of things we don't understand. So that's so then if you don't see all the physical dimensions of the brain, if you don't see all of its functioning, how do you decide what is and isn't an illness? Well, you look at the symptoms, and you look at the way they interfere with the human life, how they cripple a life, how they define a life, etc., how they interfere with basic functioning. You have the symptoms. And then you have another bizarre thing, is that while not understanding the brain, people are able to develop medications that affect the brain, and often in very positive ways for people who are mentally ill, without fully understanding how these medications work. So there's really a bizarre kind of, I don't know, it's a house of broken mirrors or something. It's just it's a twilight zone, a lot of psychiatry. But that being said, dude, let's say, let's not treat schizophrenia until we 100% understand how all the drugs work, and until we 100% understand all the processes going on in the brain that affect schizophrenia and where it came from. Let's not fucking treat that shit until we have total understanding. So no, that would be a fucking crime. That would be a crime and would create like an ocean of suffering. But that's the bizarre aspect of psychiatry, that there is a kind of, you're always navigating around some sort of a blind spot. And a lot of it is fucking blind spots. And because so much of the decision making is based on symptoms, because we don't understand the brain, then of course everybody can fucking shit on psychiatry. And so, of course, we should shut on psychiatry to some degree. We should recognize its shortcomings. But we also should recognize where these shortcomings come from. And just because we don't understand one organ of the body doesn't mean that it doesn't doesn't create profound suffering and profound illnesses that manifest themselves through behavior and not through like multiplying cancer cells. So, you know, it's important to understand, all right, dude, fucking shit on psychiatry, but don't do it in a fucking cheap shot kind of a way.
What I'm saying is that there's reason to be a little bit skeptical, especially when you consider that most of the research on these drugs is funded by pharmaceutical companies with billions of dollars at stake, and that many of the most prescribed psychiatric drugs barely do better than placebo in a lot of studies. I guess part of me worries that psychiatry medicalizes ordinary human emotions and treats them as disease symptoms. At the heart of that worry is a fundamental question about what is or isn't a medical condition. And how do we even go about answering that question? Well, one way would be to take a pragmatic approach. A medical condition is a problem that we go to the doctor to fix.
Now that's actually not the pragmatic approach that psychiatry applies. One of the standard approaches is whether it interferes with functioning, whether it interferes with your functioning in daily life. Right? You know, like religious beliefs. A lot of people hold metaphysical beliefs, right? They don't interfere with their ability to function. When you hear voices, when you believe that Jesus is giving you direct commands to, I don't know, give your money away to fucking Jordan Peterson's Patreon, whatever the fuck, you know, then it interferes with your functioning and becomes a problem. So once again, it's like, kind of uninformed kind of view, because this is like what people bring into the psychiatrist to fix is not necessarily what interferes with their functioning. These are two different categories, and if you're doing a serious critique of psychiatry, you should at least reference like the standard criteria that actual psychiatrists use.
So, for instance, the question to ask is, are drugs the best way to manage 8-year-old boys who don't like sitting still for 8 consecutive hours, or is the problem that schools place unrealistic demands on them? Does a moody teenager have bipolar disorder, or is he just moody? These are the kinds of distinctions that diagnostic criteria are supposed to make, but psychiatric diagnosis is based almost entirely on the subjective self-reports of patients, or, in the case of children and teenagers, on the reports of their parents. Meaning that, if you know what words to say, you can kind of get the diagnosis you're looking for, or that your parents are looking for. Now you might think that we can improve this with more advanced neuroimaging or with genetic testing. But even if that were possible, it wouldn't eliminate some fundamental doubts.
So there is an organ that controls your thoughts and behavior. And when that organ goes haywire, well, it expresses itself in thoughts and behavior. And people, of course, can fake it. People can also fake brain trauma. Like, it's not always detectable, all types of brain trauma. If you've been hit on the head, you can fake it and a doctor might not know right away. But doesn't mean that brain trauma doesn't exist. A person can fucking, fake a heart attack or whatever, I mean, doesn't mean that those symptoms don't exist, that those symptoms are not indicative of something. So what the fuck are we supposed to wait for? The full understanding of the brain before we treat, problems associated with it? Of course people can fake that shit to a degree, depending on how competent their psychiatrist is. For one thing, there isn't really great reason to fake most of that shit, because it's like, oh, I got some antipsychotics, now I'm moving very slow, I fake schizophrenia. But it's just such kind of fucking vapid bullshit, what she's saying. It's just such superficial bullshit. Like, do we need, total complete understanding of every fucking neuron, one of the fucking billions of neurons in our head, before we can treat this shit? Because people can fake the symptoms for some reason, even though that hardly ever happens. It just makes things more complicated, but it should in no way use to fucking invalidate psychiatry.
The decision to treat a pattern of thoughts and emotions as a disease can never be a fully scientific one. Even if my emotions are statistically abnormal, to call them diseased is inevitably to pass a kind of value judgment on them, and value judgments lie beyond the scope of science.
This is such a load of horrible fucking shit. This is just such a load of shit to say some fucking nonsense like this. It's just complete load of shit. Oh, it's always a value judgment? To fucking say something is a disease that's connected with a pattern of thoughts or emotions? Oh, it is? Fucking A, dude. Check out this slide. Now, if I tell you that schizophrenia destroys the brain, destroys parts of the brain, right? And now I'm gonna show you this fucking slide. Now, do you have to be a fucking brain surgeon to understand which one of these identical twins has schizophrenia? Do you have to be a fucking, a surgeon? Is this a value judgment To say that it's bad when fucking, you know, parts of the brain are eaten away by disease? Is that a fucking value judgment to say that this is bad? No, maybe they're just, you know, these two twins, they just have different emotions and thoughts. It's just one of them is functioning with a brain that's being destroyed by schizophrenia. And it's just, who's to say that this is a disease? Who's to say that schizophrenia is a disease? Oh, you know, the thing about bipolar disorder, dude, is that people with bipolar disorder, their life expectancy is 10 to 20 years less than that of the general population. Dude, oh, who's to say bipolar is a disease, right? Well, it's just a subjective judgment. Who say it's a disease? You know, fucking shit. It's a subjective judgment, dude. Let's avoid just stigmatizing people and recognizing that they have lifelong mental illnesses. No, people with bipolar disorder have a suicide rate of 10 to 15%. 10 to 15% of people with bipolar disorder are gonna off themselves. But we're not gonna make a subjective judgment and call it a disease, so it might actually receive some fucking funding and research. We're not gonna do it. Because it's like we all have mood. Sometimes we feel sad, sometimes we feel happy, right? Well, yeah, fucking, this is such a load of garbage. Like, how could you be so intelligent and say just such utter, complete fucking drivel?
I think there are clearly cases of depression and anxiety so debilitating that treating them as diseases is the best approach. And I don't want to discredit the experience of anyone who feels that their depression or anxiety is a disease.
You already fucking did it by, you know, describing it as an experience. Oh, it's just, I'm not gonna discredit anybody who experiences their cancer as a disease. No, I'm open to possibilities, and it's just fine, you know, if you feel it's a disease, it's a disease.
However, when I look at the current state of psychiatry, what I see are a lot of drugs on the market that make you fat, impotent, and possibly suicidal, only to alleviate your depression to an extent barely greater than, say, inundating your colon with homeopathic crystals and intoning a sincere prayer to Moloch.
So we're all smart people, right? We're all smart. Oh, we have a very high IQ, you know, we watch ContraPoints, we watch this channel, we're very smart people. So we know that, you know, because the average IQ is 100, that everybody is not at a 100 IQ. No, society wouldn't be able to function between, you know, without like smart people like us around, right? And it's just the average IQ. So like when there's a large clinical trial that specifically excludes heavily depressed people because the companies are afraid of the very shit that she just mentioned, basically being associated with suicidal thoughts and shit. Well, you know, in that trial, there's still going to be a variety of responses to these medications. And just because on average they are barely better than placebo, considering the fact that there are many people who are moderately depressed in that sample who are not that depressed that they need medication and for whom placebo would work just fine. Placebo is a fucking powerful thing. You know, and it's just, you know, there are people who are gonna kill themselves and mangle themselves who could benefit from antidepressants, and purely equating them with fucking impotence and suicidal thoughts, maybe that's just not a way to go if you really want to have a serious discussion about that shit. Maybe things are a bit more fucking complicated than fucking scaring people with the idea that, you know, it's just the only thing an antidepressant is going to do for you is make you impotent.
And that, along with the fact that I couldn't afford to see a psychiatrist even if I wanted to, is the reason that I now prefer not to see my sadness and anxiety as a disease. Instead, I prefer to think of it as just this perpetual dusk that shrouds my life in a shadow of harmless, mild despair. So, hail Moloch, hail darkness. Let's whip out these crystals, huh?
So this is the second curse of psychiatry right here, what you just saw. Now the first curse of psychiatry we've been over, is the lack of an understanding of the brain. But the second curse is this. The second curse is people thinking that because they have an emotional spectrum, that they therefore can judge people who are all the way on the other side of that spectrum. Now we all have mood, right? All of us have mood. Mood is a central part of life. Now, have you ever had such a good mood that you believe that you're Jesus Christ with a special fucking mission from the heavens? Or that you're a prophet, Old Testament prophet, reincarnated? Have you ever had a good mood like that? Because, you know, if you amp up your mood by a factor of, I don't know, 10, 100, this is where you're going to end up. But that doesn't connect with your good mood. No more than drinking 3 beers every Friday with friends connects you with being a severe alcoholic. It just doesn't connect. And yet, so in her experience, you know, it's just like, for you personally, psychiatry has been a waste of time. There might have been some tumult in your early life that has been over-medicalized. There might have been nothing. It's just your anxious parents who were pushing you into psychiatrists. And psychiatry failed, you know, by over-prescribing medication. And that precisely means that you've never experienced clinical depression. And yet you shouldn't sort of generalize from your own experience. It's like, oh, there's a kind of a malaise to life, a little existential sadness. Yeah, you know, a lot of people feel that shit, but that's not clinical depression. And there's no need to even relate it in any way to other people whatsoever. It's just to say, I don't have any psychiatric condition. I've just been misdiagnosed in the past. And so therefore I'm not really here to, like, you know, because you know, part of the problem for people, part of the issue with kind of human beings is that we have an illusion of agency, right? So we deal with our sadness and we imagine that we, in some sense, have triumphed over depression, whereas in reality we've never experienced the full kind of wingspan of depression to begin with. And this kind of an idea of agency, what she's presenting, you know, oh, now I just drink and I just accept the sadness of life. Well, there are people who are eager to get off their medications because they want to experience that sense of agency, but then they shouldn't get off them, because they're bipolar or they're schizophrenic. In the case of schizophrenia, people want to get off their medication. However, if you get off their medication, your brain is going to start being destroyed again by the illness. So, you know, if you just take it literally, what she says, that it's a subjective judgment. It's not, you know, science should make value judgments, right? So we can't fucking, you know, so let's just maybe take, you know, don't take your medications, antipsychotics, and see what happens. And then you're like, your brain disintegrates and you're just lost. You're lost to humanity if you accept that perspective. It's a dangerous perspective, dude. And it's dangerous for people with bipolar as well, who are stabilized by medication and they think, my agency has brought me here. I had a severe depression, but now I'm just gonna cruise into life with a mild melancholia. I'm just gonna be cool. You know, it's just, you know, big bad psychiatry trying to put me in fucking cuckoo's nest. You know, I'm gonna fucking rebel and go on my own, and you know, it doesn't work out too well, with the suicide rates at 15% and life expectancy reduced by 10 to 20 years. So anyway, this is serious business that psychiatry did. Yeah, you know, let's not fuck around with it. Thanks for watching.